The year 1665 was a fateful year for London. The Great Plague gripped the city, leaving a trail of fear and death in its wake. How did the people of London fight this terrible epidemic? Let's find out. Spring 1665, the plague begins to spread in the poorer neighborhoods of London. At the beginning of May, about 50 deaths were registered, but by June this number increased to 600 per week. The plague was spread by rats through their fleas. Population density and unsanitary conditions played their fatal role. About 70% of all deaths occurred in the city's poorer neighborhoods. By summer, the epidemic had gained momentum. In August 1665, the plague was claiming up to 7,000 lives each week. Streets were deserted, houses were locked, and many people tried to flee the city. Doctors dressed in strange suits with long noses tried to fight the plague. Their masks were filled with herbs to protect themselves from the contagious air. Around 30,000 people died in September alone. The plague changed everyday life. Plague markers were put on the homes of the sick. People avoided each other to avoid infection. Shared burials became commonplace. The number of dead grew daily. Carts loaded with bodies became a common sight on the city streets. By the end of the year, about 100,000 people had died, a quarter of London's population. King Charles II and his government imposed strict measures: quarantine, disinfecting homes, and restricting movement. These measures helped to reduce the spread of the disease. The church and charitable organizations provided great help by distributing food and medicine, helping the sick and poor. These efforts helped to stop the epidemic by the end of 1666. When the plague receded, London was left in ruins, but with new hopes. The epidemic had killed 100,000 people, a quarter of the city's population. This tragedy reminded us of the fragility of human life, but also of the incredible strength of spirit. London began to slowly recover, and the lessons of that terrible plague are forever etched in history. The Great Plague of London in 1665 showed how vulnerable we are to natural disasters, but it also demonstrated our ability to fight back and rebuild. London's story is one of resilience and rebirth.